Hello, folks, and welcome to Tuned-in Tuesday. I hope you're enjoying the balmy weather, particularly if you live anywhere around Simcoe County, which is Barrie, Aurelia, and area, north of Toronto, in Ontario. And I hope that you were able to spend some time outdoors. And today we're going to be talking about narratives. All right, and narratives are basically ideas, beliefs, concepts that tend to sink fairly deep into our sometimes even subconscious and tend to direct our lives in certain ways. There are narratives around us about things going on in the world, and there's also narratives within us, particularly as we think about ourselves and as we go through life and make decisions. So a narrative can really steer your life sometimes without you even knowing it. So if you think about the last few days, on the weekend, if you saw the post about Jean-Luc Picard, things will be different. That was to illustrate simply that if you have someone in your life who really challenges you and helps you to grow, your perspective will grow and be different. Hopefully we're on that path of growth to some degree or other. And there's plenty of obstacles. I mean, there's no debating that. All right, so really to drill down into the impact of narratives from a learning perspective for students and parents who are seeking some help in terms of improving their grades, building some skills, whether that be in, essay writing or, gaining some computer skills and gaining some science concept understandings or math, maybe even some French. All right. And I've unpacked how I go about doing that. The bottom line is we have narratives in our minds. And as we grow older, those narratives sometimes are in need of a refresh, aren't they? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So just think this through for a moment. Okay. As we go through life, sometimes we pick up, false beliefs about ourselves, maybe about others. And when we stop and think about it, we know that these, maybe obsolete ideas about our own abilities, our self-worth, and so on, are not helping us succeed. And yet sometimes we hang on to them because they're familiar. Okay, so cassette tapes. What's your first reaction when you saw the tapes behind me? Right? Like, were you thinking about all those awesome 80s and 70s bands that most of them are still around? What does that say about that decade? Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I have diverse musical tastes. But it's not like I have any biases, even though I stopped listening to the radio in 1989. The bottom line is, and my students know this, why are so many people still loving 70s and 80s music? You can tell, I could go on about that for a length of time. So in any case, the whole idea of having tapes, if you had tapes, if you are of that vintage, or maybe your grandparents are, the good old days, right? You had tapes and you played that Bon Jovi Living on a Prayer or whatever the song was. You played it over and over and over. And if the tape recorder didn't eat the tape eventually nonetheless wore out. Oh, what a concept. What you listen to over and over again eventually wore out. Okay? So, are you connecting the dots here? Right? Sometimes our views of ourselves need to be refreshed. And in fact, I would say they always need to be refreshed. Are you a lifelong learner? Do you have people who challenge you? We talked about that before. All right, so how does this relate to learning? How does this relate to a student who is struggling? Well, sometimes it's time to throw the tape away. All right. And in my fundamentals, I talk about learned patterns of failure. I talk about how it's so important to overcome or to just stop and identify the obstacles, to back up. Okay, remember the two paths the other day, and to just reflect on what you know, and you actually, as it turns out, you're smarter than you think. you can leverage that skill, that knowledge. All you had to do was back up a few steps, and then you realize that you remember things. Okay, and then we use that to build. So that's all about reframing or rewriting, re-recording, alternating, coming up with an alternative narrative, right? Like you have to come up with an alternate plan because the tape is worn out for some of us, right? I'm talking about young people who are struggling through what we've just gone through in the last few years. I was just talking to a student today who really, really struggled in in math and was having a tough time trying to catch up. Where do I even start, right? So we work on a plan. Okay, so all that to say, I want to go right into these skill areas that I focus on at Koi Tutoring Services. So watch me shuffle the screen. Okay, watch me shuffle the screen. I've got 3 screens here. Maybe sometime I'll post a visual. Okay, so here are the skill areas. I'm just jumping onto my website for a moment, and you can see that the skill areas are math, science, French, typically up to grade 10. Maybe you need some help in those. Maybe your narrative needs to change in terms of what you think about, wait for it, essay writing and reports, history, civics, indigenous studies, career planning. Are you terrified about the future? Are you terrified of what you're going to do for the rest of your life? Okay. And then there's D2L, Google Classroom skills, navigation. What on earth? Like, how do I even start? Or maybe you use this when we were learning remotely, but maybe some teachers aren't using it or they're using it differently. And what about just using some powerful apps that you maybe haven't really been taught in enough detail to use across different devices to really, really make assignments pop? Okay, computer tips and tricks and smartphone self-regulation skills. Now, that concept, smartphone self-regulation skills. All right, there needs to be a course in this, folks. Yes, parents. I know you're high-fiving me. It's like, amen. Just look around us. We just need to look around ourselves to see how intense the distractions are, right? And you're trying to compete with sophisticated billion-dollar algorithms that are designed to draw attention away. All right, we all face it. I'll be talking in a bit more detail about self-regulation soon. But today is about rewriting, re-recording the narrative. Okay, the tapes eventually wear out. You might have some obsolete ideas in your mind about your skills, your talents, and abilities. All right, learn failure. It's like, I hate math. I can't. Ever since I was in grade 2, I could not figure out math, and then everything just got faster, and now here I am in grade 10, and I'll never be able to do math. You stare at the textbook for 2 hours. It's like, okay, so it's time to back up. All right, make a new recording. All right, that's what Koi Tutoring Services is all about. And so I just wanted to share that with you on Tuned In Tuesday. I hope you have a Tuned In Tuesday. And I just wish you all the best and look forward to hearing from you. Does this make some sense to you? Or did you stop listening to me after I said, that comment about radio in 1989? Or maybe Bon Jovi has just got you on an 80s bender. Okay, that's fine. More power to you. All right. All the best. Hope to talk soon. Would love to see some of your comments. Have a great Tuesday. Peace out.